we have to come to DC. We have to catch up with one of our favorite congressmen, Brandon Gill. So thanks so much for making some time for us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I mean, when we look at this, we saw you right before you went in to, actually get confirmed and all that just to get through in Congress. And I want to know what this journey has been like for you, because you've been here now for 6 months, and I assume that there's been a lot that you've learned about the city. Like, what was the biggest thing that you think that was maybe like the misconception that you had about what this job would actually entail versus the reality that you now see on the ground every day?
Yeah, DC is its own ecosystem here. There are all kinds of different players trying to influence the legislative process. There's media everywhere all the time watching and listening to everything you say and do. We have committee hearings all the time. We're voting later today on a rescissions package, finally, to claw back money from NPR and PBS. So it's been a wild ride. And you learn about really how this sausage is actually made, and think about the one big beautiful bill and being a part of the negotiation process for what that looks like. What is the final package going to be? It's really been phenomenal.
A wild ride indeed. I mean, so one thing that it's clear that we've said, repeatedly, just watching you, it's just obvious, self-evident truth, really, is that your talking is good, right? So when you're doing the committee hearings and everything else, what you've been saying is really powerful stuff. It's great stuff. But I'm curious more about, what you're seeing when it comes to the sausage getting made, because, we had talked about this at the very beginning. Congress is fundamentally broken. The legislative process is fundamentally broken. We don't pass budgets, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone's good. All the good people are trying to do the best they can. Mm-hmm. So, just what are some of the things you just noticed about that process?
Yeah,
good and bad.
Yeah, I would describe the Republican conference as we're all pointing in the same direction. Generally, we have generally the same goals, but we've got a lot of differences in ideology and sort of ideas of how to get there. So think of the different groups. We've got the libertarian-minded people here. We've got the fiscal hawks. We've got the neoconservatives. We've got the sort of Reaganite fusionist. We've got everything in between. And sometimes those different groups sort of butt up against each other, and they disagree fundamentally at times. But one of the amazing things is seen as having a leader in the White House who's able to coalesce all of these different groups. And I think Speaker Johnson's done a great job of that as well, and move us in the direction of getting real legislative change done. A lot of people talk about Congress as a body that doesn't do anything. They don't ever pass bills. I mean, we pass 100 bills or so every year or so. But we're about to pass probably the biggest and most consequential piece of conservative legislation in decades. And seeing all of these different groups butt heads at times, make deals with each other, negotiate, being in the room whenever some of that's happening, talking to leadership and everything. It's been a pretty extraordinary thing.
With that in mind, we see this, the MAGA movement, right? It is very much a movement here. How do you see the conservative class kind of going back up against the establishment that has held a stranglehold on DC for so long?
Yeah, I mean, I think the conservative class is ascendant right now. I mean, think of where we're at right now versus where we were even 10 years ago.
I don't want to. No,
exactly.
No,
and that's,
don't make me.
That's the thing. It's that before you talk about building a wall, and then you have even some people occasionally on our side of the aisle who would push back pretty hard and not like that idea. Right now, we're talking about mass deportations and taking our country back from illegal aliens who have invaded. And right now, you can't be a Republican and get elected and not support building a wall. We're about to give over $100 billion to DHS and ICE for border security and for deportations. I mean, think of how far we have come there. We talk about the woke agenda. Social issues historically were things that Republicans sort of shied away from at times. The prevailing wisdom was that we don't want to talk about social issues because we're the party of, balanced budgets and economics, and all those things are great. But we want to stay away from the culture war. We have embraced that now. And I think that's because the left has driven their party off of a cliff. They're talking about putting boys and girls sports, boys and girls bathrooms, and really absurd things. But that's where we're at now. We are now the party that fights.
Brandon Gill, have you ever used a women's restroom? Tell people what that's in reference to.
I have not. And I can clearly state that I have not, unambiguously. We had a hearing earlier today with sanctuary state governors, and one of them is J.B. Pritzker from Illinois. And he is coddles illegal alien criminals in his state, refuses to work with federal law enforcement and ICE to deport illegal aliens. But he also has a really weird history talking about some of these bathroom issues. And in 2017, he had tweeted that as protest against President Trump, everybody should use the opposite gender's bathroom. So I asked him about it. And I asked him, have you ever used the women's restroom? And he couldn't give me a straight answer, unfortunately. But that's where their party is at.
What I loved about that was that video was fantastic, because what I loved about that is his silence. He was just, there's multiple times where it's just dead air, and he's just kind of sitting there, like mouth breathing, doesn't know what to say. Like, that's not the issue. Well, I'm confused.
Well, that's where the Democrats are at right now. They're terrified of their base. And they know that if he just said something that's so simple and so self-evident that men and women are different, and it's normal for them to use different bathrooms, and men shouldn't go in women's restrooms, and it's okay for women to not want men in their restrooms. Those are basic truths. He can't say those things because he knows that it's going to upset his base. That's where they're at right now.
So speaking of that, let's talk about what's going on throughout the country, possibly even this weekend. I mean, I'm thinking about staying here a little extra to see the big, beautiful parade. And then also, right, there's this threat of even more riots and protests, they say, on the 14th. So a lot of America is talking about this, and in terms of being afraid of the base, obviously we're not seeing restraint so far. So what are your thoughts about this?
We even saw in this hearing that the Democrat, what appears to be the Democrat official policy now, or official position, is that ICE is comparable, if not totally tantamount to Nazis. I mean, that's what they said very clearly in this hearing. I mean, I find that so repulsive, so disgusting. It's offensive, obviously, to everybody who died at the hands of the Nazis, but it's also so far out there. And you're saying this in the context of illegal aliens and leftists in LA who are rioting and burning that city down, waving Mexican flags, throwing rocks at police officers, burning cop cars. That's the environment they're saying this in. I mean, it really is astounding.
So what do you and your fellow lawmakers need to do just to deal with all the rioting that's going on? Because everything goes back to ICE and illegal immigration at its core.
Yeah, I think that we need to put the pedal to the floor right now. I mean, what we're seeing now is illegal aliens came into our country illegally, and now they're rioting to allow more illegal aliens to come into our country illegally. And that's how you lose your country. That's what it looks like to lose your country. So I think that our biggest priority should be border security and deportations. I think without that, all of the other issues, like fiscal issues, which are very important, don't matter anymore because we don't have a country anymore. So I think we've got to support the president. We have got to get funding to ICE and to DHS so that we can carry out these deportations. And I think that the rioters who are looting American stores should all be prosecuted. And I think that's basic common sense, too.
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen, again, to your point originally about how conservative or the good guys are in charge instead of the establishment is, the music to my ears right now is that people are actually talking about going after the people who are behind this, organized networks of groups. And it's really crazy that a few years ago, you weren't allowed to say that. Like Antifa doesn't exist and all this sort of madness. Yeah. And I sense that, from what you see the same thing, I hope. Yeah. And that's what I'm asking here, that there's a lot, this administration is serious about it. And so are many members of Congress.
They are, and we are. One of the questions that arises here is, who is funding these riots? Yeah. And these don't appear to be entirely organic. They appear to be coordinated. I think we need to figure out what NGOs or what nonprofits or what institutions are paying for this. Make sure they are not receiving taxpayer dollars, because I think given what we've exposed over the past several months with Doge, there's a good chance some of them are. And we need to investigate that and then shut off that funding, which never should have been there in the first place, and then again lead to prosecutions.
Now, Congressman, I know you have votes that you have to get to as well, but you also have a new baby that you're going to have to get to as well. We've had your wife, Danielle, on. She's actually been kind enough to fill in on the show before. So how is mom and little baby Winston doing?
They're doing great. They're happy and healthy. Little Winston is about a month old now.
Yeah.
So he is, as long as he's with Danielle, he's happy. And they're living the good life down in Texas.
Fantastic. It's quite a year for you. I mean, you've got first child going on, second child, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're sitting there in Congress swimming with the sharks. Great stuff so far. And what I'm really curious about, like, you should think about, writing down thoughts as you go, because your perspective will be fresh and you'll be able to describe to people, I think, how this stuff actually works.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Like I said, it's its own bubble here. It really is its own ecosystem here. It's a wild place.
Congressman Brandon Gill, we appreciate the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.